Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. In today's video I will be doing a come book shopping with me / book haul. So I'm filming this on the 26th of December, so the day after Christmas, and I have a few gift cards burning a hole in my pockets. I do have one gift card from Borrowers or Browsers, I always forget their name, but they're a downtown indie bookstore in downtown Olympia. And then of course I also have a few from Barnes and Noble. So I will be taking you along to those two stores, and then afterwards we will be doing a book haul. This book haul will encompass books that I received for my birthday as well as for Christmas. I decided to just do one big haul for both of those celebrations. So we will go ahead and start with the store in downtown Olympia. So let's go buy some more books, even though we already don't have any room for the ones we have. Alright guys, we have made it back home. I was actually pretty good. I only ended up buying 6 books today, so I still have some money on those cards, but my shelves are over full, so I only went and really got the books that I was really interested in. I may do some online shopping for Barnes and Nobles because there was a few first in a series that they did not have in store. Things like Strange the Dreamer, A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, Red Rising, and I feel like there was, the Bone Season, I believe is what it was called. So they didn't have the first of any of those available. I saw a few of their sequels and things like that hanging around, but Fortunately, wasn't able to get any of those, so may pop online and use my gift card on the Barnes & Noble website. But for now, I have, I believe if I counted correctly, about 23 books to go through. So I'll kind of group them based on where and when I got them. I will go ahead and start with the 6 books that I purchased today, and we'll go ahead and start at Borrowers, where I got 2 books. One of them is a book that I have already read, but plan on rereading, and then the other is a book that I'm planning on reading at some point this year. So the reread is The Iron Widow, which I believe I read maybe just last month by Sharon J. Zhao, and this is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. I had a really wonderful time with it. I believe I gave it 5 stars. I did think that the second book was coming out in January, if not already out, but it turns out that it's not coming out until August of 2023. So I did make plans to reread this before reading the second book, so I went ahead and picked it up. I'm very excited to own this series. It does have some good representation in it. It takes place in ancient China, or at least a world that's based off of ancient China, and also has a polyamorous relationship. Our main character is also disabled. She is a victim of foot binding, and a lot of people kind of compare it to what was it called? I cannot remember the name of the movie right now. I literally was talking about it when I was thinking about it when I was buying this book, but it's kind of the one where they're in the machinery and the humans are the ones that are powering the machinery, and they're fighting these kind of aliens that are breaching these portals under the ocean, and cannot remember the name of it, but that's kind of similar to what's going on in this book. The next book I got is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a book that is on my 20 books to read in 2023. It's also one of the books for my Vlog Squad challenge, the 12 books that I was recommended by people from the Discord I'm part of. This is a book that I'm super excited about. I've heard a lot of wonderful things about it. I read The Martian by this author earlier this year and really enjoyed that experience. Now, I have heard really good things about the audiobook, but I did enjoy reading his other book physically. It is very science heavy, and I don't often listen to audiobooks in such a way where I can 100% concentrate on the book. So reading such a science heavy book, I think isn't the best idea for me to do in an audiobook format. So I will go ahead and stick with the physical books. And I'm happy to add another Andy Weir to my collection. Next, we have the books that I got at Barnes & Noble. Now, Barnes & Noble was having their 50% off hardback sale, which ended up being really convenient for me. I don't buy a ton of hardbacks just because they're not very comfortable for me to hold, and usually they're, relatively expensive. But in this case, I did get 2 hardbacks and 2 paperbacks, and we'll start with the paperbacks. The first one I got is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This is an author that I have read a few books by. It's been a little bit of hit, a little bit of miss, but leaning more towards hit. And I've heard wonderful things about the story. This is one of those books where I'm a little embarrassed that I haven't gotten to it because I keep eyeballing it, but now that it's on my shelf, I'm hoping that means I'll get it on my TBR in the next few months. We are following a trans character. I believe they go maybe off to war or something, and they are thought to have died. So they're like, yeah, I'm totally dead. And then they come back as a woman and are able to live as their true self. They then meet up or, encounter an old friend and strike up a romance with them. So once again, nothing but good things, and I'm super excited to try out another work from this author. Next, we have The Push by Ashley Audrain. This is another book I've heard wonderful things about. It follows a mother who just feels like there's something wrong with her daughter, and the more that her husband tells her nothing is wrong, the more she feels things are wrong. So I have a feeling that this is a book where things are going to rapidly escalate. I am very interested in the trope of mothers who don't connect with their children, kind of like mother-child relationship, but make it horror. I do have another book that'll be coming up in this haul that has a similar theme. I'm hoping to do some vlogs around books like this. So those two books that I'll be listing in this haul will probably be the first books. And if I end up enjoying that trope, I have a few others that I can check out. Next, we have the hardbacks. The first one is the one where I was super glad that they were having that sale because it was $28, and I'm not the kind of person to drop $28 on a book no matter how excited I am, and I am very excited for this book, and that is A Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko. This is a book about a vampire hunter who ends up teaming up with a vampire couple because I believe there's a new form of vampires that's causing a lot of havoc, and they're gonna try to figure out what's going on or how to defeat them, something along those lines. And this, I believe, is a polyamorous relationship between that vampire hunter and that vampire couple. And I had to admit, I haven't really heard anything about this book. I haven't even checked Goodreads recently to see how its ratings are doing. So I'm really gonna go into this pretty blind, and hopefully I have a wonderful time. The last book that I bought today is a book that wasn't on my radar to pick up today or to buy anytime soon, but the author is very much at the top of my list of someone I want to try, thanks to Riley Marie, who has read a lot of their work, and so I picked up What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This was not the first book I wanted to read by this author. I honestly wanted to read Sword Heart, which I believe was Riley's favorite of this author, and that book was available also in hardback, but it was like really like big, and I figured I would rather read that book in a paperback, but this one is like super tiny, and also the hardback is just really beautiful. We have this artwork on the front of like a little haunted house, and then we also have the stunning and creepy end papers. So very happy that I got my hands on this, and I'm very excited to try out this author. I believe the character in this book is non-binary. They are only using they, them pronouns in the synopsis, and it's based off of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. That is not a book or poem or whatever it is that I have read from him, but you know, it looks creepy and it's short, and I'm excited to check out this author's writing. Next, I figured I'd just let you guys know my December pick for book of the month, since we are here doing a haul. I don't often use book of the month because like I mentioned, I'm not a huge hardback fan, and I don't really want to buy a book that wasn't on my radar just because it's presented to me by a book subscription box. So I've actually put myself on pause. I think I have 1 or 2 credits that I still need to use up, and once I do, I'll probably go ahead and cancel that for a while. But I went ahead and grabbed Babel by R.F. Kuang. I have no plans of reading this book anytime soon, but I do know that I want to read it eventually, just because I've heard so many incredible things about it. I have not read this author's other work, The Poppy Wars, and I have honestly zero interest in reading it. So this will be my first work by this author. It seems to deal a lot with how colonial powers, imperial powers use language to oppress the civilizations, the countries that they are working to overthrow. So sounds incredibly interesting. Have literally heard nothing but amazing things. Seems to be many people's favorite book of the year, and am looking forward to eventually, sometime later this year, sometime next year, who knows, dive into the story. All right, next we'll go ahead and jump into books that I got for my birthday. I have two categories for this. I have books from friends, and then I have books from my family. So the first two books are from my friend Macy. The first one is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This seems to be kind of a cozy fantasy that everyone is kind of going bonkers over. We have is this based off Cinderella? I don't remember which fairy tale this is based off of, but we kind of have a character who has only half a soul, so she sometimes behaves a bit without embarrassment. She doesn't like really get embarrassed or check her behavior as much as other people would because she's missing part of her soul. And I believe she falls in love with someone, probably, since it's a romance. I feel like I've heard the synopsis of this book so many times, but I've also heard the synopsis of the second book, and they're similar enough where I keep getting them mixed up. So I'm very excited to try out this series. They sound like they're just going to be quick, and they're going to be fun, they're going to be cozy, and sometimes it's just what you want to read. Then kind of the opposite, because it's probably not super cozy, but it is definitely wintry. We have The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is a series that I have been wanting to pick up for such a long time, especially after I enjoyed Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik so much. This does take place, I believe, in kind of like a Russian setting as well, and has some Russian folklore in it. We have a character who can see the spirits, but Catholics, Christians, some religion is coming in, and they believe that these beings are demons. And so they are no longer worshiping these spirits, and because the spirits are no longer being worshipped, they are fading away and are no longer able to protect the village. And it's up to our girl to find a way to save her village. So very excited about this series. I've heard pretty good things about it. Some people just don't vibe with it, but I am hoping that because I like Naomi Novik so well, that this book will really work for me. And I'll either try to get to it early this year when it's still relatively cool, or it'll just have to wait until next winter. Next, we have three books from my friend Chris. The first being the last volume of Monstrous, volume 7. I went ahead and put this on my list in hopes that I would get it, and I did, so yay! I'll be able to finish the series without having to wait for a year or so, however long it takes my library to actually get this book. So this is gonna go ahead and conclude a series that follows a girl in a East Asian inspired world. There's a lot of war, monsters, death, just a lot of parties going a lot of different directions in the last few books. They've all been kind of coming together to see who will pull ahead. Our main character does have an old god inside her body that has kind of allowed her to survive up until this point. So I'm very interested to see how their relationship ends, and of course what the outcome of the war is. I don't know how they'll be able to get through everything in a short comic like this and finish everything up, but I'm definitely excited to see how it ends. Next, we have The Ghost Bride by Youngzae Chu. This is a book I heard from a YouTuber, Peruse Project, but she was talking very highly about this story, and it sounded incredibly interesting to me. We have a character who, I think her family is having some financial issues, and another family approaches them and asks her to be the ghost bride to their son, who passed away, but I guess still needs to marry or something. So she ends up doing so because her family needs the money. And I think she starts maybe being able to go to the spirit realm, or somehow is being haunted by her dead not husband. But it sounds incredibly intriguing, incredibly unique, and I'm hoping that it has some interesting, if not beautiful, writing. The last book is a book I kind of hinted at earlier, which is kind of one of those books where we have a parent who has a child where their relationship seems a little bit strained, leaning towards horror, and that is The Changeling by Victor LaValle. Don't know much about this. I know changelings are usually older, sicker fae that were put in the place of human children. So let me read the back real quick because I honestly don't remember anything about this book. It says, when Apollo Kagwa's father disappeared, he left his son a box of books and strange recurring dreams. Now Apollo is a father himself, and as he and his wife Emma settle into their new lives as parents, exhaustion and anxiety start to take their toll. Apollo's old dreams return, and Emma begins acting odd. At first, Emma seems to be exhibiting signs of postpartum depression, but before Apollo could do anything to help, Emma commits a horrific act and vanishes. Thus begins Apollo's quest to find a wife and child who are nothing like he'd imagined. His odyssey takes him to a forgotten island, a graveyard full of secrets, a forest where immigrant legends still live, and finally back to a place where he thought he had lost forever. So it seems like this takes place actually from the father's point of view, and kind of deals with what happens when the mother does go too far. So that'll be interesting to see things from that point of view. All right, so next we have 3 books from my parents that I got for my birthday, 2 of which are books I have already read. The first is The 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This was a book that I listened to the audiobook and absolutely loved, like, every moment of it. I had really been struggling with contemporary romance. I was thinking maybe I should give it up, except for the few authors that I know I love, like Talia Hibbert, Ali Hazelwood, Emily Henry, things like that, because all the new stuff just wasn't working for me. And then I picked this up, and it was absolutely beautiful, and I knew I would read it again someday so that I could highlight it. So I'm super excited to have this incredible book on my shelf. We are dealing with 2 characters that are reconnecting after years. Our main male character disappeared from our female character's life one day. Both of them have experienced a lot of trauma in their life. So just trigger warnings for like drug use, alcohol use, self-harm, like attempted suicide, things like that. It is definitely a darker read, but has a lot of hope and love in it, and I just had an incredible time. Probably going to be possibly on my top 10 as well, because just stunning. The next book is A Lady of Rooks Grave Manor by Catherine Moon. I read both books that are already out in the series. This is the first one, and I had such a wonderful time with it. This is reverse harem monster romance. We are following a woman who gets a job at a manor that services monsters, and she finds, I believe, 5 monsters to serve, and they form a wonderful relationship. It's just really sweet and warm-hearted. This book, I would say, is more character-driven than plot-driven, and is incredibly smutty. So if you're not into smut, then just keep like a mile radius away from this. And the last book is one I have not read, and is actually another recommendation from Riley Marie, and that is Wolf Gone Wild. I believe this is a werewolf romance, and we are following a wolf who his wolf won't come out, so he's kind of not been able to shift, I believe, but he can still hear the voice of his wolf in his head, and he meets a woman one day, and his wolf decides that that's going to be their mate. So it seems like this wolf has quite a sense of humor, or that this whole story altogether is going to be rather humorous. So I do enjoy a funny romance. Seeing as I enjoy TJ Klune, I'm hoping it has kind of similar vibes to that. All right, so moving on to Christmas. To start off with, my mom got a box of books from a family member of hers and let me poke through that. And there was only one of those books that I was really interested in. Her taste in reading is more similar to my mom's, which is not very similar to mine. But that is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. If you saw my end of year book tag, I think that's what it was. And it asked about books that I started this year but didn't finish. I mentioned this book because I started the audiobook and decided that I might have better luck reading it physically. So when I saw this book in the box, I was like, that's perfect. So hopefully that means I will actually be able to go ahead and finish this book up this year. This book, I believe, follows a young Black babysitter who goes to the store with the white child she's babysitting and is accused of kidnapping the child, and it just follows the events that follow that. Next, I got a few books from booktubers. The first one is from Bailey from Is Bailey Reading. So thank you so much, Bailey, for sending a book my way. And that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is, oh, she's got the same name as you. So this is a romance that is following a kind of like a spoiled brat, I guess you could say, whose father or stepfather sends her to this island where I think she has some sort of connection to it. I don't think he just sends her to a random island to kind of, you know, clean up her act and take responsibility for her life and things like that. And she ends up meeting a fisher or a crabber, some sort of dude that works on the ocean. And he, of course, dislikes her because of the kind of person she is, but they do eventually develop feelings for each other. I'm trying to think if she's cleaning up some sort of bar. Yep. It says, so he cuts her off and sends her and her sister to learn some responsibility running their late father's dive bar. So she's working at a bar. I've heard great things about this series. I think a lot of people like the second book even better. But you know, I'm excited to try this author out. I've never read anything by her, but I've heard pretty good things about her. So thank you again, Bailey, for thinking of me and sending this my way. Next, I got 2 books from Amy from A Star Reads. She sent me 2 because she wanted to send something for my birthday as well. I have decided to allow it because I do believe that I sent her something for her birthday, either that or some sort of YouTube anniversary. So I've already sent her a book earlier this year as well as a Christmas gift. So I accept your birthday gift and your Christmas gift. Thank you very much, Amy. So for the birthday gift, she has sent Nick and Charlie by Alice Osman, which if you've seen my January TBR is already on my list to read. I literally have no idea what happens in this book. For all I know, they just sit in the room and talk, and I would be perfectly happy with that because I love these characters very much. Plus it's super short, so it'll be a very quick read for me. Next, she got me a picture book that I put on my list because every time I see it, I kind of like wish I owned it, and now I do. And that is The Prince and the Knight. And who does this? So Daniel Hack is the one who writes it, and Stevie Lewis is the artist. So this is kind of like a queer children's book where we follow a prince who catches the attention of a knight, or rather the knight catches the attention of the prince. Amy says she really enjoys this book, and I have a feeling I will enjoy it as well. So thank you to my 2 booktube friends for sending those books my way. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. And for the last 4 books, these are the books that my family got me for Christmas. And the first one is The Sword of Kaigon by M.L. Wang. This is a standalone fantasy. She's a chonker, but luckily it won't be getting me into any large high fantasy series. This seems to be East Asian inspired as well. I don't remember much about the synopsis because this was talked about a lot for a while, and it's kind of, you know, not lost its popularity, but it's not one of those books that's being read by everyone at this moment. But I do remember people really enjoying the mother figure, that she was incredibly strong, intelligent, and talented, and we love to see a woman like that. So super excited to check out this book. Have heard only wonderful things. The next book we have is Heaven Official Blessing, Volume 2. I read Volume 1 earlier this year and had a fun time. You know, it wasn't the most mind-blowing, most well-written thing, but you know, it's one of those books that you read just to have a good time, to maybe turn your brain off a little bit and just have fun. So I definitely do want to check out all this author's work. I mean, they're just pumping out those translations. I cannot keep up, but I am excited that I at least got volume 2 now. This one follows, let's see, what are their names? Shilon, which is the prince. He had ascended to heaven at the age of 17 because he was just such a wonderful person, and then he was kicked out of heaven, and then he ascended, and then he was kicked out, and then he ascended again a third time. And so he's kind of, you know, the failure of the gods, and they kind of look down on him, but he's just a really good spirited guy who wants to go out and help people. And he has been hanging out with San Long, who is actually quite a dangerous person, but he is a dangerous person that is fully devoted to Shilon. So it is kind of a very slow romance between the two of them, and this book just continues on from the first series. We'll probably get to know a little bit more about the characters' past, specifically San Long's past, and they'll just continue to go on missions in the spirit world, dealing with ghosts and things like that. The second to last book is The Ipos King by Grace Draven. This is the third book in the Radiance series. I believe this is the last one that's out. Goodreads makes it seem like there might be a fourth one, but I think this one came out in 2017. So I'm assuming if it hasn't come out by now, it may never. So I might consider this the end of a series. In the first two books, we follow the niece of the king, and the second prince of the Kai civilization. The woman, whose name I can never remember, is a human, and the prince is from the Kai, who are kind of these like grayish creatures, and it was a really sweet romance. I really enjoyed it. I also thought the plot was very interesting and that the writing was really well done. And this book, we no longer follow those two characters. We are instead following the prince's cousin. I believe she is a bastard child, because one of her parents is royalty, but the other one is not, as well as the friend of the prince, who lives right on the other side of the border in technically enemy territory, but he gets along very well with this prince, and doesn't always agree with, you know, the brutal way of, you know, his kingdom. So very excited. We've seen a little bit as their relationship has grown and seen them interact as kind of side characters in the first two books. So definitely excited to go ahead and see their relationship come to fruition. And the final book, it was very awkward to explain the synopsis of this book when I unwrapped it for my family and specifically my parents, and that is Desperate Measures by Katie Roberts. I've never read a Katie Roberts book. I wanted to go ahead and try out these Disney retellings. I believe most of them are also kind of BDSM themed, and some of them are polyamorous. This one I don't believe is. I think this is between Jasmine and Jafar, and I think maybe kind of like contemporary themed. I don't think they're historical settings or really fantasy based. I think they might be more like they own clubs or they're gang leaders, kind of those vibes. At least that's what I remember from it. I am a little nervous to get into this one. I think most people enjoy this one. Because it seems like this is one of those series where you love some of them and then you don't love some of the other ones, and that they're kind of similar. So I think if I do end up enjoying this book, I may wait like 2-3 months before reading the next one, just to make sure that I'm not feeling like I'm reading the same thing over and over again. I really am hoping I like her. She has like a huge backlog and is constantly pumping out new books. So excited to go on this Katie Roberts journey. All right, so those are all the books that I have recently hauled. Don't expect a haul anytime soon. Usually I don't get this many books at once. I get maybe like 1 or 2 books a month, and I'm assuming, considering how many books I own right now, I'm not going to get any new ones other than maybe those 4 starts of a series that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, or of course I will get books as I continue series, since I know I'll be reading them right away and they won't be sitting on my shelf forever. All right, guys. Well, thank you for sticking around for this hopefully not too long video. And thank you, as always, for supporting my channel by watching my videos. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.